he's writing the song basically like around a pedal point. So it's like one note, super limp, lean and simple. So it's like. So it's like a pedal point, and it's a simple musical elements, and what makes that interesting is that note works against both those chords. It's called a common tone. So it's good. You know, melody, harmony, rhythm, form, text. It's good. You know, all these things. So yes, scales are important. They're not everything, but I think it's really useful to know them.
Yeah. One thing that I've been like, one bassist that I listen to the most, because you know I play bass mostly.
Cool.
Guitar's not my. But like these, you know Scott LaFaro.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love worship him.
What he does is it's just like I sometimes I can't even track it. Like, what did he do? You know, because it's like I'm not sure if he's just sticking to scales or just kind of going around. Because I know then he'll just like repeat patterns and like go up to like play like a 5/5 or something and just like start like going doing.
Well, when you start to learn walking bass lines, and this is something that I would encourage you guys, like I listen to all forms of music. I love reggae, I love rock music, I love jazz, I love blues, I love classical music. The Beatles did too. You know, I'll use them as an example again because that's kind of a bit of a theme today. Speaking of Scott LaFaro, if he's playing a walking bass line, there's a song called Killer Joe written by Benny Golson, whose bassist was in grad school with me in New York, which was amazing. I was the youngest guy in the school, and I was like overwhelmed. I had like Benny Golson's bassist, Stan Kenton's guitarist, Mel Lewis's arranger were my classmates, and the second foremost authority on Duke Ellington in the world, David Case was in my class. They were getting a master's degree. And I was this kid from Oregon, with like a rat's tail and living in a welfare hotel, and he would play like this song just is a vamp back and forth. So how do you play a bass line to that? Well, part of what LaFaro would do it would outline the chord, and there might be scalar things in there. But here's just an example of that. Okay, 1, 3, 5. So I'm playing notes that are in the scale and the chord. And chromatic. Anyway, it's if you know the notes of the scale and you know the notes of the chord, you know those are going to work. You probably want to hit the root on one. That's going to be if you're going to play this, that's the same chords back and forth. This is seventh in the bass. It's a little weird, right? So we want to hear this. So yeah, all those things are useful, to you. That when I was trying to kind of hit on building chords in thirds earlier, that stuff's really really useful. In the Beatles, you hear walking bass lines in the Beatles music all the time that they would get from jazz, and there's no bad information. You know what I mean? It's like just learn it all, and if you and don't be intimidated by it. It should be fun. I enjoy music theory, and I enjoy learning a new scale. When my friend, I have a Chris Trainer who played in my band Helmet for a while. He's been with the band Bush for years, and he's super enthusiastic about stuff. But then he kind of skims over. He's like, "Look, have you heard of a Lydian pentatonic scale?" This is about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was like, "No." I said, "Let me see it." He showed it to me, and now I know it inside and out, and I use it all the time. And it's a really cool sound, you know. So because that's what I do. I sit around and play guitar and work on stuff. So it's you know, books. At Cripple Creek yesterday, they had all these cool books. Like, I wanted to buy this and this and this and this, but I already have a box of books I'm taking back from my locker to Los Angeles, and I have too many books as it is. But even if you get one bit of information out of that, or your friends, as I said, sharing stuff with friends, learning stuff from people, doing clinics like this where you're getting information that you might not otherwise get, because I have a different set of skills than other guitar players. So, you know, all good. Any questions about anything, you guys? Ask me anything. Don't
What
be
about like
afraid.
if you don't read music? I mean,
Yeah, that's why I was trying to show you guys those chord exercises. You don't need to read music. I mean, you know, is it useful? Absolutely, you know, but it's not required. Wes Montgomery, who's my favorite guitarist ever, he couldn't read a note of music. I did a clinic when I was at Oregon with John Abercrombie, the great jazz guitar player, and he said when they were at Berkeley, they had so many guitar players. They had a big band full of guitar players, and Wes came in. This is in the 60s. Wes died in 1968, and they said he was going to play with them, and they put some sheet music up in front of him. He was kind of embarrassed, you know, and he said, "Oh, it's okay. I can just play it." And his ears were so good that they just started the song. And John Abercrombie's exact words were, "We were all shitting." He was like, "Oh my God!" He couldn't read, but his ears were so good that he could hear every chord change as it was coming. You know what I mean? It's like that's an amazing skill to have. I'd rather have that skill than be able to read. But I read, and I use it. You know, I use it for all kinds of thing. It's all good. There's no bad information, as I said. You were going to ask another one.
Well, no, I was just like, I always find there's such a huge, like, you know, like, I try to study some music theory, but I always find there's such a big gap between music theory and my actual playing. And then somehow along the line, I look at my playing, and I'm like, wait, I can actually kind of play, but then like, I don't know how that happened because I can't really connect that music theory to my playing. I just kind of figured it out. Like,
Yeah.
Like,
It's good, you will eventually connect the dots, you know, but I have a different system kind of for, you know, I make you can get them online, and I just copy them, you know, make a copy of them, fretboards, you know, like the little fretboard fingering things that you see here, and if I come up with a chord voicing, I might write it out, like this, you know, here's a 6th chord, and I'm like, okay, B flat, I'm playing chord melody for this, you know, for this song, you know. Because I'm keeping the melody on the top and playing chords. And a lot of those chords I know already, but I'll make up my own voicings. And so that's one thing. I also keep manuscript paper there, and there's when my friend said, "Here's a Lydian pentatonic scale." I wrote it out. I wrote out a fingering for it, and then I said, well, how, you know, I should learn this all over the fretboard. Yeah, there you go. So I don't know as well as a regular pentatonic, but then sometimes, and I use my iPhone. I have voice memos on there. I also have what do you call them? Play-alongs, jazz play-alongs. There's a great site for jazz plays called Learn Jazz Standards.
Yeah.
Those guys are gold. I mean, they are just amazing, and they have, you know, there are rock play-alongs. You can get, you know, songs without the melody instrument, and that stuff is, why not? If I'm sitting in the bus or a hotel room or waiting for something, and I have, you know, an hour and a half to kill, am I going to, you know, sit there and watch Dr. Steve Brule for the millionth time? Probably, but you know, or Tim and Eric. It's because it's awesome. But why not pick up my guitar and play along with one note samba, or play through a song and improvise for 10 minutes. And it's like every opportunity you get to pick something up and learn it. So don't worry about the theory. It might not relate to what you ultimately like. For me, reading, I have a rock band for 27 years, and my dad used to say like, so do the guys in the band read music? And I'm like, no. They're rock musicians, It's like we joked about the other day, how do you get a guitarist to turn down, put sheet music in front of him? And it's fine. There are all a lot of different ways to learn, and to me it's all interesting and exciting. And I have glaring weaknesses in my playing, and I have strengths because I've spent so much time focusing on developing my own style. That's because some of the things that we talked about today, Gary Hagberg, my mentor, and Howard Roberts, his mentor, and he's like the master and the grandmaster. Knowing those notes of the chord, knowing this pentatonic scale in all positions, knowing that kind of thing, and then getting the Eric Clapton riff, or the Angus riff, whatever, like those things all end up, being absorbed into your playing, but you're not going to try to mimic them because you know the elements that went into it, so you start to make it your own. And that's so it's by listening to different players, and I would say encourage you to listen to other instruments. NPR just asked me to do a little paragraph on John Coltrane because his 90th birthday is coming up September 23rd. 1926 in North Carolina. He was born. I wrote a paper on him in grad school. But so I transcribed John Coltrane solos, the saxophone, in my welfare hotel room in New York City with my bed up on 2x4s. So I had my desk and my Sony Walkman. It's like play, stop, reverse, play, stop, reverse. Figure the notes out, right? I wrote out, the solo. It's a saxophone, and in trying to figure out a sax line. That's Charlie Parker, and it makes you do things that are not maybe as natural on the guitar, and it affects your guitar style. I've transcribed Bill Evans' solo, piano player. You're learning piano parts. Then piano is completely different layout than the guitar, and it helps you. It helps you create your own style. So listen to everybody, and all music. And I just can't say enough about that, about being open to. I love guitar playing. It's amazing, but I also love music in general. So it's good.
Hey, Paige.
Yeah.